Hi everyone, and welcome to TNT Friday, the last day of the working week. And yes, the boats are still all here ashore because apparently it's too rough for them to go offshore. Another day when we've got absolutely flat seas. Anyway, we're about to see some big social changes here in Thailand, and that's really probably going to happen before the end of this year. We're talking about things like same-sex marriage, some consideration about casinos. We've just had the change of the closing hours from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. That's yet to be seen exactly how it will be implemented. And there's also the prospect of this land bridge, which is really rising to the top of the pile. We'll talk a bit about that later in the program and how that could really affect the whole balance of the way infrastructure works in Thailand, moving perhaps from the Eastern Economic Corridor to the central part of southern Thailand. Welcome to TNT. And just a reminder about tomorrow's hour of power between 9 and 10 a.m, a full hour between you and me, and a cup of anything that makes you happy. And you can bring up any topics, make any comments, and join the rest of the community. So we'll see you then. Now, talking about some of these, perhaps potentially big changes to society in Thailand, we'll start with this report, BangkokPost.com. SETA backs gender equality sex worker bills. And the Prime Minister has pledged to push for the passage of 3 bills, including a draft law on marriage equality. And the Marriage Equality Bill aims to amend the Civil and Commercial Code to allow anyone of a suitable age to register their marriage regardless of their gender. And the second bill would allow transgender people to amend their gender marker in their official identity documents. And the third bill would legalise prostitution by amending the 1996 Act on Illegal Prostitution Suppression and Prevention. I think in the case of that one, it would be trying to clarify a lot of the muddiness and areas of interpretation that exist in the current bill. And Mr. SETA has affirmed that the government is committed to pushing to pass all 3 laws and is ready to negotiate with all relevant organisations in support of them. And the Premier also promised to place the 3 bills high on the meeting agenda of the House of Representatives, which is expected to begin deliberating them by early December. And one concern raised by Mr. SETA yesterday was the government would also have to speed up replacing military conscription with voluntary recruitment so that those who change their gender marker from female to male won't have to face forced conscription. Well, I can imagine the opposite happening as well, when males trying to avoid conscription may change their gender marker as well. And all that leads to this story in ThaiPBSWorld.com, Thailand to bid to host 2028 World Pride. And Thailand will bid to host World Pride in 2028 to reflect the country's acceptance and open-mindedness regarding LGBT plus issues. Well, I'm not so sure about that. I think from the outside it appears that there's a high tolerance towards LGBT people, but inside Thai families I find that they're still very conservative. And the government spokespersons quoted the Prime Minister saying his government will fully support the bid, and if the country is selected, he would allocate budget for the hosting of the event. Next year's World Pride will be held in Australia. In 2025, it'll be in the US and the Netherlands in 2026. And the Prime Minister was speaking during a meeting in which participants discussed marriage equality and a proposal to allow transgender people to be covered by the country's universal health coverage. And SETA hopes that a marriage equality bill ensuring the same legal rights for same-sex couples as those for heterosexual couples will pass without difficulty. And given that the largest chunk of the opposition is the Move Forward Party, and they put same-sex marriage high on their agenda, I think it will pass without any complication. And to this one, covered in ThaiExaminer.com, and it reports legal casinos and gambling in Thailand being weighed up carefully after Deputy PM's backing. And Bumjai Thai Party MP last month urged the government to look at how Singapore is benefiting from, I think that should be selectively legalising casinos, with a report that the US casino and entertainment behemoth Sands may be interested in developing opportunities in Thailand if they arise. The article notes that by and large public opinion is hostile to the prospect, as are many experts, given the history of gambling in the country and the social ills it creates. And an MP with the Pumjai Thai Party, which controversially legalised broccoli in June last year, is making noises about legalising casinos in the kingdom to generate badly needed revenue for the government and to combat the growth of illegal gambling dens and online betting activities. And casinos are seen as a draw for Chinese tourists and a win for the country's famous nightlife industry, as a boost for efforts to attract foreign visitors. However, there are potential challenges to the move to legalising casinos, with a survey conducted last year by NIDA showing strong public opposition to any progress towards legalising gambling. With 57% of people voicing opposition to such a proposal, only 39% were in favour of legal casinos. And proponents of the move, such as this Deputy PM, also argue that allowing firms in Thailand to operate such concerns will help drive employment in the country and keep wealth within the struggling economy. But Thai culture is very much set against gambling, which was legalised from 1930 to 35 with such negative consequences that it had to be outlawed again. Well, some 90 years later, I think a few things have changed in Thailand. Now, how about the change of the closing times? Coconuts.co in their Coconuts Bangkok edition reports late nights, new heights. Bangkok's nightlife industry weighs in on 4 a.m. closing times, and staying up way late until the early morning at a bar can be a reality now, after the Interior Ministry announced that it had approved the extension of closing hours to 4 a.m. But those involved say they're going to tread the new rules carefully. And this would allow entertainment venues to open past 2 a.m. until 4 a.m. Well, a lot of them already have done so. And the music director behind the underground venue Never Normal thinks the extension would benefit those who love to start their night very late. Now, he says, "I think it's a great idea, especially for nightclubs. Normally people who start going to the club usually come around 10 p.m, sometimes even past midnight. With this change, entertainment venues will also make more money." And a business executive and lifestyle agency owner says, given that Bangkok is a renowned destination for travellers seeking diverse experiences, permitting businesses to operate for longer hours will position Bangkok, and by extension Thailand, as a leading choice for entertainment and lifestyle enthusiasts. However, that isn't to say that this extension will apply nationwide. The minister has stated that all areas with tourism potential will be allowed to request the extension under specific conditions set by the Interior Ministry. And such conditions have yet to be known publicly, and further guidelines will be decided upon at the next cabinet meeting. One primary concern is ensuring that the new regulations are applied fairly and equally across various business categories. And with businesses closing later at night, issues surrounding transportation and security in Bangkok's nightlife scene could become more apparent. You put those three issues all together, and you've got some quite profound changes to Thai society. Friday's Tim Newton today. Please subscribe to the channel, and we get to the fourth big ticket item, and this seems to be gathering pace. SATA touts land bridge project, this being reported by the Bangkok Post, and the reworked vision does not include a canal, and the proposed land bridge project will be the world's largest megaproject. Okay, off you go in the comment section with that one. And the Prime Minister said the project between the Gulf of Thailand and the Andaman Sea will reduce the transport times by 6 to 9 days, as well as cutting logistics costs by bypassing congestion in the Malacca Strait. Well, we've been told about savings of some 2 days in the past. That's suddenly increased to 6 to 9 days. And the Prime Minister said this version of the project, which has been rumoured for about 4 decades, will not dig a canal in the Kra Isthmus of Thailand, instead connecting the two coasts with infrastructure such as an oil pipeline to support the growth of complementary industries such as petrochemical factories and gas separation plants, as well as a 4-lane highway and train lines to transport the containers. And China, which wants to build a locomotive factory that would be the largest production base outside the mainland, can export to India and the Middle East with the land bridge. And many multinational companies that want to relocate their production bases abroad are overlooking Thailand, not because of the proposed minimum wage hike from 400 to 600 baht, but rather the lack of infrastructure and free trade agreements, according to the Prime Minister. And Thailand has great potential to attract investment, but we have to go out and attract investors. And well, he's certainly been doing that over the past few weeks, but currently back in Thailand. To this story in nationthailand.com, and 54 Thais among 220 hostages held by Hamas. This is as quoted by the Israeli government and reported by Reuters originally. And in providing updated figures, the government also said 328 people from 40 countries were confirmed as dead or missing after the surprise October 7 attack by Hamas fighters on southern Israel. In all, an estimated 1,400 people were killed in the assault. And among the hostages with foreign passports, there's 15 Argentinians, 12 Germans, 12 Americans, 6 French and 6 Russians, and many were believed to have had dual Israeli nationality. However, some, like Thais and 5 Nepalese hostages, almost certainly did not. And Thais also make up the largest single group of foreign dead and missing, with 24 confirmed killed and 21 unaccounted for. Thailand's one of the largest sources of migrant workers in Israel, with around 30,000 working in the agriculture sector. So those numbers keep on getting updated, but 54 hostages now confirmed held by Hamas in Israel. Heading to Phuket now, and the Phuket Express with the non-story of the week. And the headline says, Phuket tourist police investigate illegal Russian tour guide allegations. Ooh, sounds juicy. Let's see what the story says. The Phuket tourist police inspected a famous temple in Phuket. Well, Chalong Temple is the largest temple complex in Phuket, after they received many complaints from concerned citizens that there were allegedly Russian tour guides working there illegally. And then down the bottom, after they visited there, they said they did not find any illegal Russian tour guides. Well, after reading 3 paragraphs in that story, I thought I'd at least share my dismay of wasting my time on that story. Moving on, and patiamail.com says that 90-day immigration report now needs update form. Now, the story's been making the rounds on a lot of expat social media. Barry Kenyon from Pattaya Mail trying to put his finger on the issue. And expats who are reporting their 90-day stays in Thailand with a receipt and a barcode in their passports are now being asked to submit a new TM47 form. And this appears to be a new rule at the Chonburi Immigration Bureau with the intent of refreshing the 90 days database. And apart from filling in a new TM47 form, expats should submit their passport with a copy of the ID and visa page and evidence of their addresses, that's a lease or a yellow book or recent TM30 receipt. And separately, expats are again reminded they should not ignore the separate bureaucracy of the TM30 form, which confirms local address and returning to Thailand from abroad by land or sea. That's land or sea, not by plane. Expats will need to show an updated TM30 receipt, and there's been recent instances of fines imposed on foreigners who have an out-of-date TM30 receipt or even none at all. Now, this has partly got to do, for example, if you go on a short trip here in Thailand. As an expat, you might go and stay in Bangkok for a couple of nights, or Chiang Mai or Hat Yai. And when you arrive at the hotel, they're meant to, and they probably will, register you in their computer with immigration that you are staying at that hotel. And then when you go to do your 90-day report, immigration checks their computer and says, well, hang on, you've moved your residential address. So that's why a lot of people who are doing online reporting at the moment are getting just a big red cross because they're not able to sort that situation out with the immigration officer at the time. So be aware about reporting your address and making sure you keep close by a copy of your lease or the yellow book to show where you are living. Well, I suppose a bit of a theme of today's program is change here in Thailand, and that even includes Thai Airways, at least with female flight attendants. Bangkok Post reporting that Thai unveils new cabin crew uniform. And Thai Airways International has hosted the From Purple to Purpose press conference to launch the new uniform for female cabin crew, a combination of the national identity and sustainable development, which will be implemented at the start of next year. And the uniform for Thai flight attendants is now weaved, I think that might be woven, with synthetic thread made of recycled materials and Thai silk. And the new uniform offers both aesthetic and utility purposes, as it's easier for looking after and flexier in wearing. Let's have a look at some of these new uniforms. And I have to say, from the get-go, apart from obvious changes in the fabric, the uniforms look, well, much the same. And not that there was anything particularly wrong with the older uniforms. So sticking with a fairly culturally conservative and well-trodden formula, doesn't seem to be any change of uniform for the guys. And just a quick reminder about tomorrow's Hour of Power, a live program between 9 and 10 a.m. Thai time. If you've got some topics or some questions, you can bring those up live during the program. We usually get to 400 to 500 people online, so that should be a bit of fun. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on Tim Newton Today.